This is not a drill, guys. Just hours after Iran issued a direct threat to the United States, a major American city was hit. 30 people injured, blood on the pavement, and one terrifying question hanging in the air. Was this the first strike? I mean, the driver's dead, shot, 30 civilians mowed down. And while the media calls it a tragic accident, new evidence suggests that it could be something far more sinister. And if what we uncovered is true, then what happened in Los Angeles may not just be a tragedy, it may be a warning. Now, Iran's supreme leader said it out loud. Retaliation was not just coming, it was guaranteed. And now their proxies are rearing. Guys, not only are they rearing, they're also rearming. Sleeper cells are being discussed in intelligence circles, and the timeline matches up way too perfectly to ignore. So what's really going on here, guys? And why are officials being so quiet? The silence is almost deafening at this point, radio silence. If you believe that this was a random crash, type coincidence in the comments down below. But if you believe Iran's threat was already touching American soil, if you believe Iran's threat has already touched American soil, I want you to just type one word, strike, in the comments, because by the end of today's video, you're going to know which side you're really on, okay? And it may not be the side you actually expect. Now, stick with me, guys, because in the next couple minutes, I want to walk you through the government denials, the foreign threats, the classified warnings, and the chilling timeline that connects all of it. You're going to hear exactly what Iran said, what Trump did in response, and why this moment might be the most important wake-up call America has had since 9/11. Let's go ahead and jump into this. So it happened in the middle of the night, East Hollywood, California, July 20th, 2025. A peaceful crowd gathered outside of a nightclub for a special event, some grabbing some tacos from a food truck, some just waiting in line for a good time. Then chaos. A car barrels into the crowd. Dozens of people slam to the pavement, screams, blood, flashing lights, sirens, panic. 30 people injured, 3 fighting for their lives, 6 in serious condition, and 19 more wounded. One driver didn't make it. And that's where things get strange, because this wasn't just a car accident. No, this happened just hours after Iran's supreme leader issued a very specific threat to the United States. Not maybe, not possibly, but in his own words, and I'm going to quote him, he said, "Greater strikes can be delivered to the United States." So let me ask you, do you really think it's a coincidence that an American city was just hit right after that threat was made? Guys, now what if this wasn't random? What if East Hollywood wasn't the end, but only the first strike? What if this was a test run, a trial attack carried out by somebody who's already here? What if the war Iran promised has already begun? Paramedics rushed to the scene, chaos, sirens, bodies, screams. But when they loaded the driver into the ambulance, that's when everything changed. Because as a part of their secondary assessment, first responders discovered something so chilling. What they discovered is that the driver had a gunshot wound. Now, think about that for a second, guys. Let that sink in, okay? This wasn't just a crash. The person behind the wheel was shot. Now ask yourself, was he the victim of random violence, or was he silenced before he could talk? Was this a suicide mission gone wrong, a failed escape attempt? Or was he a pawn in something much bigger, activated, used, and then eliminated? And if that is the case, then who pulled the trigger? And why isn't the media even asking that question? Like, why are they just kind of like rushing to call this a tragic accident while 30 Americans, suffer? Jamie from Texas wasn't expecting much. She said, "I figured I'd call and maybe save a few bucks." Well, after speaking with Chapter, she walked away with a plan that's saving her $600 a year without losing any of the benefits that she needed. It was quick, it was free, and it made a real difference. Now, I partnered with Chapter because they're making sure that people just like Jamie, people like you, don't just fall through the cracks. Now, you don't owe them anything to find out if they can help you. And that's what I love about this. It's totally free. You don't owe them anything. Give them a call right now. Phone number is 909-563-8279. I left the phone number down below. And also left the link so that you can hit up their website right now at askchapter.org/Ron. Hey, one conversation could change everything. So let's go deeper, because this is really where things get even darker and more dangerous. Now, Iran has openly admitted it backs proxy groups like the Middle East, okay? All across the Middle East. They operate in Iraq, Yemen, Syria, and yes, some are believed to be active right here in the United States. You heard that right, guys. Sleeper cells on American soil, hidden, waiting, watching, right up until the signal comes. And just weeks ago, Iran's leadership said this: "We will strike the United States and our enemies won't know where it came from." Now, what if that car in East Hollywood was exactly that? Now, look, you can dismiss this if you want. You can call it a coincidence. You can pretend, it was just all a fluke. But answer me this. If a foreign power vowed retaliation and then blood spills in a U.S. city just days later, how many coincidences does it take before we call it what it is? Are we already under attack? And maybe we're just too afraid to admit it. Now, if you think that this is just bad luck, type coincidence in the comments. But if you believe that this was the first strike that may have already happened, if you think the sleeper cells may be real, type one word: strike. Now, of course, we need to break down how President Trump took decisive action before any of this unfolded, and how his bold military operation may have delayed something way worse. Because what you're about to hear next, this actually proves just how close we came to a nuclear red line and why the fight for American safety is not over yet. Now, before I forget, join my free breaking news crew. Link down below. Zero spins, zero ads. Just the updates that matter to you guys. I left a link for you down below. It's pinned. Join our free breaking newsletter down below right now. So now, before this attack in Los Angeles, before the blood hit American streets, President Donald J. Trump had already acted. He didn't wait for Americans to get hurt. He didn't hold a press conference begging for peace. He did what strong patriotic leadership demands. He struck first. June 21st, Trump launched Operation Midnight Hammer. This was a precision military campaign that targeted Iran's most critical nuclear sites using B-2 bombers and submarine-fired Tomahawk missiles. The goal was not endless war, not retaliation for votes, but to cripple Iran's nuclear capabilities before they reached 90% weapons-grade uranium. And according to Pentagon reports, the mission succeeded. All three sites, Fordow, Isfahan, and Natanz, were obliterated. Trump brought the world 1 to 2 years of safety without sending a single American soldier into Iranian soil. That's what leadership looks like. That's what America First looks like, guys. But of course, Iran didn't take it laying down. Within just hours, their supreme leader delivered a chilling speech saying, and I quote, "Even greater strikes can be delivered to the United States." He called America criminal. He praised the unity of his people in preparing for confrontation, and he pointed directly at Washington, saying the next response would be crushing. Iran promised retaliation, not just in the Middle East, but against American targets, against our infrastructure, against our cities. And then it happened. East Hollywood, 2 a.m., a car plows into a crowd. The driver is found shot, 30 injured, Americans bleeding on American soil. So I have to ask you again, was this the first strike? Or are we just still pretending that this is just a coincidence? Because here's what Iran said word for word. If the enemy repeats its aggression, our response will be stronger than the blow it received during the 12-day war. What if that response has already begun? But that's not all, guys, because when LAPD arrived on the scene, they weren't just confused. They were stunned. No motive, no answers, no comment on the gunshot wound, nothing. And while the media blames the car, nobody's asking about the trigger. So now here's where things get more suspicious, because as of this recording, LAPD still hasn't even named a motive. still hasn't released any information about the shooter, and still has not addressed why the driver who mowed down 30 people had a bullet hole in his body. Media outlets rushed to call it an accident, but the facts just don't hold up. They don't add up. 30 people injured, the driver dead, shot. I mean, like, and no official narrative. Now, let me ask you this, guys. If this happened in New York City or Dallas, Texas, or Washington, D.C., do you think that they would be this quiet? Or is somebody working overtime to keep this story from exploding nationally? Because if they do admit this was terrorism, it opens a door that they cannot shut. It forces them to admit that sleeper cells might be active and that foreign retaliation may have just hit the U.S. mainland. Now, here's the scariest part. If this was deliberate, then that means whoever ordered it isn't alone. And that brings us to what's not being reported at all. While the country watches LA, where's the next target? Anybody have a guess? Because Iran's proxies are not limited to one location. They operate through Hezbollah, through the Houthis, through cyber sabotage and trafficking networks. And yes, they have fingerprints in Europe, Africa, and right here in America. So ask yourself, if LA was a test, a soft opening, so to speak, what happens when the next strike comes into a major economic hub? What happens if it's New York or Houston or Atlanta? Are we ready? Or are we just staring at some headlines and pretending that, they aren't war notes? So I want you to drop a comment down below. What city do you think that they're going to hit next? Like, where do you think the next warning sign is going to come from? Is it going to be a blackout, a port explosion, a bridge getting knocked down, another so-called accident? Type the name of the city that you're watching and thinking, this could happen here. Because if we don't wake up right now, we might not get another warning. When the warning signs are there, when the nuclear threats were loud and clear, when Iran told the world it would retaliate, Donald J. Trump didn't flinch. He didn't just take the bait. He didn't start a ground war. He didn't waste time with empty photo ops. Instead, he executed Operation Midnight Hammer. This was a surgical strike that dismantled Iran's enrichment program, sent a very clear message to our enemies, and protected millions of Americans without a single American soldier lost. He chose decisive strength, backed by strategic restraint. And when asked if he would meet with Iran again, he said, "We're in no rush. If they want to negotiate, we're here, but we're not begging." That's not weakness. That's leadership. That's what it looks like when the president of the United States puts America first. Now, imagine if this had happened 1 year ago under the old Biden administration. Would we have even heard about East Hollywood? Or would they have just buried it under climate headlines and diversity panels? Would we be confronting Iran's threats or offering them another pallet of cash to please leave us alone? Now, let's be clear, guys. America was vulnerable for far too long, weak on the world stage, constantly apologizing, constantly retreating, but not anymore. Not under Trump. So now I turn it to you. You've heard the evidence, the threat, the attack, the silence, the warning. Now you tell me, was this the first strike or just a freak accident or a freak incident? Like, you tell me. Drop your answer in the comments down below right now. If you believe that this was a coordinated, calculated strike and it was tied to Iran's retaliation, type strike. If you believe this was just an accident, type coincidence. Or tell me what city you're in and whether you think that you would ever be warned if this were to happen there next. So anyway, before we had Biden, today we have Trump. But here's the truth. Nobody's coming to save us. Not the legacy media, not the globalists, and not the people who would rather negotiate with terrorists than protect our own streets. We've seen what leadership looks like, and we've seen what surrender brings. I think it's now time for all of us to stay alert, stay informed, and stay strong. Now, if this message resonated with you, hit the like button so that more people can hear it. Subscribe if you have not already. Turn on all notifications so that you're never left in the dark. And above all, share this video with someone who still thinks all of this is just a coincidence, because if we don't open our eyes now, we may not get another chance to. So Stay sharp, stay free, and God bless the United States of America. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.